We're getting to the final stages of our third and final season of Star Trek Picard, and the puzzle pieces are slotting together. This week we'll take a look at Dominion, where the Titan tries to lure Vadic into a trap, but will some rogue elements mess this up for everyone on board? Let's dive deeper. Spoiler warning, this is a full in-depth review of Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 7. As such, you have been warned, turn away now if you do not want spoilers. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack. By the way, a little bit ill this week, so I'm not on screen, so you have to put up just some visual stuff anyway. I know I sound a bit odd, but hey ho, we're still here anyway. While you're watching this review, I want to know your best moment from this episode, or on the flip side, your worst moment. Go on, comment it, go on, get ready. Hit that subscribe button on your way to the comment section, and if you feel like it, the like button as well. Don't forget that this weekend, on Sunday at 9 PM BST, yep, we changed time zones in the UK, we'll be live on YouTube talking about Picard Season 3 with some special guests. Make sure to tune in. Okay? Engage. So, the USS Titan is hiding out in the Chintoka Scrapyard. Presumably this scrapyard is related to the Battle of Chintoka in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, one of the bloodiest offensives in the entire Dominion War. It's very cool to see the effects of the Dominion War, not just for changelings, but places like Chintoka, which have been changed forever. However, it is something to point out that some of the debris we see in the scrapyard are ever-used Vulcan ship from Discovery, so they could have used at least one Klingon debris, Jem'Hadar debris, or even a Starfleet ship like chucking a Miranda class, come on. They also massively increased the size of that ship, so I guess not only did Starfleet take a nostalgia look back at their ship and make a bigger version of it, but so did the Vulcans. Humans really are rubbing off on them, aren't they? We've got some big cameos in this season of Star Trek Picard, such as with Roland in episode 5, and this episode just straight up starts with a cameo, and that is Captain Tuvok. Yes, he's now a captain, in Command Red with Captain Pips. This isn't the first time we've seen Tuvok in the new slate of Star Trek, with Tuvok cameoing in Lower Decks as a commander in 2380, so at least sometime in the last 21 years, he was promoted to captain. Seven is contacting Tuvok to try and get more support from Starfleet for those who are not changelings. It seems that the Titan crew can't get in contact with Admiral Janeway. I would bet that Janeway is probably one of the hardest people to replace with a changeling. I'm pretty sure the amount of coffee Janeway drinks is probably lethal to a changeling at this point in time.
Coffee. Black.
Sorry, Captain. We lost 2 more replicators this morning.
Listen to me very carefully, because I'm only going to say this once. Coffee. Black. Coffee first.
Anyway, they find out that Tuvok has been replaced with a changeling, but at least he somewhat hints that real Tuvok is still alive, and they're probably just torturing him for more information. We do get this really cool scene of Tuvok morphing into a corpse of Riker just to taunt Picard, which is very well done and very creepy at the same time. After rescuing the android M510 last episode, we get a lot more scenes of Data and Lore battling out in the positronic brain. I also find it funny that they somewhat write out Soong and B4 also battling out, saying we're just memory files and not full personalities like Data and Lore. I guess it makes sense. There is a lot of taunting from Lore's side, Data even asking Picard for help, which is kind of emotional if you've watched the last couple of seasons and still like Nemesis. Honestly, damn my feelings. Picard feeling conflicted is also really cool, knowing that he also asked to essentially let Data die in season 1 of the show, and now being asked by another form of Data to let him live, it seems. It's morally conflicting. However, obviously the best interactions of Lore and Data are with Geordi. Naturally, LeVar Burton really sold much of these scenes, Geordi finally getting to talk to Data and talking through his grief of losing Data in Star Trek Nemesis. How Data's death affected him, breaking him, but how the memory of Data helped him deal with the grief and rebuild him, just like how Data helped Geordi become a better person during all their time together. Not only do we see this friendship side of Geordi, but we'll continue to see the father side of Geordi woven extremely well by LeVar's acting into the tapestry of his character of Geordi. With Lore just causing chaos and helping the changelings, Geordi has to beg for the life of his daughter, Sydney. Overall, both Brent Spiner and LeVar Burton do fantastic jobs in this episode, really getting time to shine their performances, and it makes it even better that they're doing this with each other. They're such great friends, and Geordi and Data are such great friends, it's fantastic. So, in an interesting turn of events, the changeling face that Captain Vadic answers to seems to look down on Vadic and her companions, and this episode seems to give us some sort of answer to Vadic and her crew, and why they're different and why they've got red lines on her face. But I wonder if the face may be a true changeling, I'm saying out of air quotes by the way. One which actually went rogue from a Great Link like Odo said, and wasn't experimented on. Basically a pure blood changing that views Vadic and her crew as inferior and expendable like we've seen. It's interesting, and definitely more of a theory to build off there. Speaking of changing evolution, let's talk about Vadic and the big reveal of this episode. Seemingly, Section 31 experimented on changelings to create perfect spies of them, and by extension, the Federation. The reason why I say Section 31 and not the Federation is mostly because I don't want the Federation to have actually been involved in this, and also the way she was kept on Daystrom Station, which we know housed Section 31 projects. This was called Project Proteus, and I have to say, it's really cool that Vadic looks the way she looks because she took the form of the scientist who experimented on her. We also learn she can pass these micro-abilities on to those she links with, and at first there were only a handful of changelings on Daystrom, which is probably her crew. It explains a little bit of how the changelings found out about what is on Daystrom Station, but it still doesn't explain much about their plan. Obviously, they escaped Daystrom, but Vadic is subservient to another. I do think this is another pureblood changeling who fled the Great Link, and is one of the rogue changelings that Odo told Worf about. But it seems like Odo didn't tell Worf about Mimicry, so when I think Vadic made it back to the Great Link, these rogue changelings found her and then started to enact their plans, using Vadic as a progenitor to spread this ability to other rogue changelings and start to infiltrate the Federation. There's a lot of food for thought on this, and we've just not quite unpacked all the details just yet. The Alachi ships which were changelings used at the beginning of the season do make a return, and it seems just to be the shuttle complement aboard the Shrike. It's interesting that they are using a shuttle, not a transporter, so even if these changelings won't use the transporters, the question is why. Vadic actually falls completely into the Titan's trap. Lots of men get captured, and she gets captured in sickbay, and we do get a couple of beautiful scenes between Beverly, Vadic, and Picard. He was never really for you, Vadic says about Jack, which is interesting. So Beverly was never meant to have Jack Crusher, somebody else was. This makes me think weirdly, but perhaps this child was meant to be Locutus and the Borg Queen. This is weird to think about, but the only current way that it works in my mind. We've got to make a theory video about this, haven't we? I'm going to be writing this all weekend, but hey ho, it's fun. Jack may have meant to be this new type of Borg, programmed into Locutus to be born, that can connect with others and control them without the need for technology to linking them together. With Vadic knowing this, I wonder how these rogue changelings found out about Jack, perhaps even allying themselves with the Borg, which is definitely something to think about. Talking of Jack's abilities, we see more of his abilities in this episode. Vadic even suggests there is something different with Jack and his physiology. Physiology? Psychology? Whatever. Something which even Crusher never checked for, which is a bit embarrassing as a doctor. We see that he somewhat has telepathy, and he can hear thoughts of other people and put his own thoughts in others' heads. This is how he's able to go toe-to-toe with his enemies after activating his red eyes, which now feels more like a shonen anime-style power-up than anything else.
Jack, what should I do? Jack!
Turn around! Roll!
This is how he could tell people were changelings. He heard their thoughts, and with that was also able to predict their movements and defeat them. In a similar vein, in this episode, he hears Sydney's thoughts and flirts with her, and even touches her hand when she thinks he should touch her hand. It's interesting, isn't it? Usually, I'm not a fan of too much flirting in Star Trek, but I actually don't mind Sydney and Jack. They both seem to like each other from hearing her thoughts as well. The scene of Jack telling Sydney what to do to help defeat the changeling Brute, who I guess is the lieutenant, was also fantastic. The scene was set up extremely well, seeing Jack do the moves at the same time as Sydney was, which does question whether Jack is controlling Sydney or just telling her what to do through the brain. I think it's the latter. Ultimately, none of his actions really help him in the end, with Vadic taking control of the ship, naming himself Captain of the Titan, and taking Jack to either her face master or somebody else. I guess we'll learn that in the next episode. This was episode 7 of season 3 of Star Trek Picard titled Dominion, written by Jim Maggs and directed by Discovery season 4 director Deborah Kampfer. It's a very nice aspect of this episode that the VFX was on point, and it actually added more to the story of what was happening. At the Chintoka shipyards, the camera focused on the Vulcan cruiser in a debris field, which I thought was weird considering that the Vulcan cruiser wouldn't have been at the Battle of Chintoka, but it was a scrapyard, so I guess it could have been towed there. That makes sense. We then saw the same type of vessel in open space, and I thought that was my bad, mixing up geography of scenes, but 2 separate locations is not a good idea. But it then saw me when a ship being in open space and recording the Shrike listens to. The fake recording of a VSS Toplana attacking the Titan. So now we have some idea to set up this plan. The Titan towed the debris of the Chintoka to open space to stage a fake battle. It's an excellent use of VFX to enhance the story being told and add more to it. A weird omission in this episode is that of Worf and Raffi. They went to exoport to monitor stuff. However, we got from Worf that he's promised to rescue Riker. I guess he didn't know if Riker was on the Shrike, but Vadic and crew being baited into a trap, perhaps they would have told Worf and Raffi to sneak up on the Shrike and rescue Riker, or at least steal their ship and get information on the plan. This can easily be solved with, oh, they didn't want to give away the trap, but it kind of just feels weird. Continuing on this vein, Riker and Troy aren't in this episode, so we know of at least 5 little episode 8, which somewhat seems to be less impactful of the cliffhanger of episode 6 than being captured. It's all fine, and any threats of them can wait another hour, but like a little bit of them would have been nice. And again, it needs mentioning that Captain Shaw can just never take a break. He's always beaten up, put into a lot of chaos, or just never asked for any of this. Now he's lying on his own bridge, bloodied up after being taken over by Vadic. Where will episode 8 take us? With Frontier Day only 36 hours away, probably 6 less hours now, how will our crew escape Vadic and make sure the Federation doesn't burn to ash? I guess we'll have to keep watching to find out. And you know we're going to have a ton of theories going into next week, so you better hit that subscribe button. Okay, my Trekkies, what did you think of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 7? If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.